Don't buy buy-to-let property in 2023. That's what this video is all about, and that's what a lot of property experts and property trainers are saying on YouTube. I want to explore that statement, see is it correct or not. But first of all, let's see why are people making that statement. So first of all, is it because many people believe there's going to be a property market crash in the next 12 months? Well, certainly property prices are definitely coming down, but I don't believe we're going to see a property market crash like we had back in 2008, 2009. Is it because many landlords are selling up? People are saying, well, hang on, if all these existing landlords are selling up, there must be a problem. Why on earth would I want to get into property? And they're selling for many, many reasons. And I've done a separate video about why many landlords are selling up. You might want to go and watch that video. But actually, I don't see that a problem. Yes, I don't think things are the same as they used to be, but we need to accept things change over time, and we need to adapt to what we do to make sure we're making the most of all the opportunities. And I believe this is an incredible buying opportunity in 2023 and into 2024 as well. So the fact that many landlords are selling up is not the reason why people are saying don't buy buy-to-let property in 2023. Is it because people are worried that if prices are coming down, you could buy a property now and then 6 to 12 months later, it might be worth less money? And some people think, well, that means you've lost money. Well, actually, no, I don't agree. You haven't actually lost money unless you have to sell that property. And if you follow the 5 golden rules that I talk about in my book, Property Magic, in particular, rule number 2, 3, and 4, rule number 2 is where we only buy property when there's a strong rental demand, and there's a really, really good demand in most places for good quality accommodation right now. Rule number 3 is we must make positive cash flow. And I'm going to come back to that one because that's part of the issue right now. And rule number 4 is we're holding long term, because we recognize that prices do go up and they come down. We live in a cyclical market. However, the long-term trend in the UK is for property prices to go up because we live on this island with a limited amount of accommodation and an increasing population. So it means over time, both rents and property prices also go up. And also the fact we've got high inflation right now, that also causes rents and property values to go up as well. So I don't think it's people are worried about if I buy now and it could be worth less than 6 months. I don't think that's the reason why people are saying don't buy buy-to-let property. I think the real reason, or maybe 3 reasons, are as follows. First of all, if you try and buy a buy-to-let property, and let's talk about single-let properties, we need to recognize that not all investment properties are the same. And people say buy-to-let property, they think that means everything. Well, I don't think it does. For me, buy-to-let, I think about single-let properties where you rent out a property, a house or a flat to a young couple or to a family or to an individual. It's one single tenant on one contract. That's a single-let property. Now, the problem with those right now, and the reason why people say don't buy those kind of buy-to-let properties, is first of all, because of the very high interest rates, because of the recent interest rate hikes we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months, it means that the amount you have to pay on the monthly mortgage is so much so that the properties don't really stack up. They don't meet the affordability test. So it's actually very difficult to get a buy-to-let property mortgage right now on a single-let property because they don't stack up. Now, you can get mortgages on other properties that give much higher cash flow, and I'll talk about that later in this video. The other problem is that because the mortgage market is as it is at the moment, it also takes a very long time to buy a property. So that statement about don't buy buy-to-let property, well, is there something else we can do rather than buy? And yes, there is. I'm going to talk about that later in this video. And then the third problem is kind of related to the first one, is that if it doesn't really stack up on the mortgage, even if you can get a mortgage, a single let property is not going to give you very much cash flow. So it's not really following golden rule number 3 from Property Magic. So these are some of the reasons why people are saying don't buy buy-to-let property in 2023. Now that will change, of course it will change. Interest rates will recover, rents and property prices go up. It will stack up in the future. But what you should be doing right now, in my opinion, and I've been investing 28 years, but I don't claim to have all the answers, is I think you should be focusing on high cash generating strategies such as HMOs, houses of multiple occupation, or serviced accommodation. These both have high demand at the moment. They give very high cash flow, and you can actually get mortgages on them. Even if you're fairly new to investing, you can still do that. So it's important to understand that as the market changes, we need to adapt our strategies. Now, one of the things I alluded to earlier is there are certain ways of us acquiring property that give us both cash flow and equity growth without actually buying. So the statement, don't buy to let property in 2023, maybe that's correct. Rather than buying, maybe we should use some of these alternative strategies. And I say strategies, I actually mean tools. So tools like purchase lease options, where we can control a property. Now, this is very similar to the strategy called rent to rent, where you find a landlord who's really fed up of renting and you give them a guaranteed income each month, less than the normal market rent. You rent it out in a different way as an HMO or SA with full knowledge and permission of that landlord, by the way. And you make a margin between what you pay the landlord and what you can charge the tenants. That's your profit less any expenses. So you can make cash flow every single month from a property that you don't actually own. The biggest problem in my mind with rent to rent is that you have to give the property back to the owner in 3 to 5 years and you don't have any benefit from capital appreciation. So better than rent to rent is what's called a purchase lease option. You might have heard of lease option agreements. A lot of people think they know about these lease option agreements, but unless you've actually done one, I'd suggest you probably don't know enough. There's a lot of myths and a lot of people on YouTube who are talking complete rubbish because they haven't actually done lease option agreements themselves. So a lease option agreement is where you find someone, they want to get rid of a property, they don't want it anymore, and they're happy to enter into an agreement where you take the property on now, you take away the responsibility, and instead of taking 3 or 4 months that a mortgage would take to arrange, you can do it in 3 or 4 weeks. So it can be a very quick transaction once you found a willing seller. Now, you agree to buy the property in 3-5 years' time, but you fix a price today. Now, why is that important? Well, remember, the property market's coming down, and most people who are actually buying in the current market, they don't want to pay full price. They, of course, want to get a bit of a discount, and that's not so good for the sellers. So this can work really well for a seller who wants to get the maximum price, but doesn't necessarily need to sell the property now. So we agree a price now, but we're not going to buy for 3 or 5 years. Now, prices are probably going to come down, but they're going to bottom out and they're going to start to come up, probably sometime in 2024. So by the time you have the right to buy this property in 3 to 5 years' time, hopefully, although the value might have come down now, it will have gone up, and so the future value might well be more than the current value. So even though we're agreeing to pay the full market price right now, it might be a discount compared to the future value. Now you might say, well, who on earth's going to agree to that? Well, many people selling property, that's not going to work for them. The reason they're selling the property is they want to get the equity tied up in that property because they want to access that cash. They need the money for other things. They want to pay for their daughter's wedding. They want to pay down some other debt. They want to invest in a business or something. They need the money now. So you proposing to buy the property in 3 to 5 years is not going to work for them. And that's the vast majority of people. And sometimes people learn about these lease option agreements. They try and use them in situations where they're not appropriate. What you have to do is look for the smaller group of people who are selling, who want to get rid of the property, but they don't actually need the money now. They're just going to stick it in the bank. These could be people who have inherited a property. It could be people who are landlords and they don't need the money, they just don't want the hassle anymore. So you take the hassle on for these people, they can walk away, forget about it, and they're going to get their property sold in a few years' time, probably for more than they could get right now. And in the meantime, we're going to cover the mortgage if there is a mortgage, and or give them a little bit of extra money. So they're going to get money on a property which they wouldn't get if they'd actually sold the property. So again, it's all about understanding the circumstances, and this particular strategy or tool, purchase lease option and lease option agreements, are very relevant in this market where many people are struggling to get finance. This is an alternative solution that might work for some people in certain circumstances. And you'd be surprised how many people are open to this, particularly in a market where prices are coming down. So it's important for you to get this specialist knowledge, and I'm actually writing a brand new book all about this to add to my book Property Magic. I'm writing one all about lease option agreements. It's going to come out very soon. If you're a subscriber in this channel, by the way, I do recommend you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Hit the bell icon so you're one of the first people who are notified, because when we bring this new book out, we're going to have a special launch offer where if you buy the book, you get loads of extra training completely free of charge. You don't want to miss that. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon, so whenever videos come out, you get notified about this. And hopefully you like the video, and if you've got a question or comment, please put it below, and I'll come and answer as many questions as I possibly can. But until then, as ever, I encourage you invest with knowledge, invest with skill. I do hope you got massive value from watching this YouTube video. I'd encourage you to click on the link below to come and do the online training with me. And I've got another video lined up for you, which I think is also going to be really useful that you should watch once you've registered for the online training with me. So invest with knowledge, invest with skill. I'll see you very soon.